What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I am Jay Shrek, and I'm here to talk about something a little different to get this channel kind of like moving and going within this new year. I know it's already towards the end of February or beginning of March. Whenever this video goes up, my recording time is different than the actual day that I upload. But either way, I plan on talking about it's kind of like my gaming history a little bit, just so you guys get an idea of like what type of games I grew up with, why my gaming, like what type of like games and everything like interest me, and why I'm into like the games that I am into, which you can probably tell a little bit based off of previous videos that I have talked about on my channel. Starting off, I want to go back to like my the first time I ever touched any video games, really, and that was actually the old Atari. I don't remember which edition because there were, I think, like 2 or 3 editions of the Atari, but either way, at my grandparents' house, my grandmother had an old Atari that was set up in her basement with a TV that I used to sit down and play games like the classic Legend of Zelda. They had that on there. They had Pong, I believe, was one of the games that was available. There were a few other games, Pac-Man, a bunch of different like games that were available on there, but they were all just kind of like simple arcade like games that they had available. Donkey Kong was one that was on there too, but I remember playing lots of those games, but at the same time, it wasn't. None of those games really grasped me, and I was never like really good at any of them. The one that I played the most out of all those games was definitely Pac-Man, but coming out of there, my next main experience was actually back in sometime like within the mid to late 90s or so. My dad managed to get a Sega Genesis from, I believe, a guy at work or somewhere. I don't know, but I only had like 3 games that I played. That we had. It was Twin Cobra for the Sega Genesis. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. It was like one of those top-down like helicopter like shooting games and everything. I'll try to find some footage or like the game cover so you guys know what game I'm talking about if you haven't seen it, and as well as I believe it was PGA Tour. It was a golf game, and also like a Tetris knockoff game called Columns of sorts that could be played with like 2 players and stuff like that. So like once again, I never wasn't into like anything super elaborate in terms of gaming back within like the 90s. It wasn't until later in my life when I really started like hearing about like more video games and stuff from my older brother, who in turn actually managed to convince my parents to actually get an actual like modern system for us at the time that we could actually sit down and play like new games and everything. And the first system that he managed to get was a Sega Dreamcast, but that didn't last very long. He got that for Christmas. I was like Christmas 99, 2000, or one of those 2 years. I believe it was 2000, and like literally like a year before the Dreamcast died to begin with. And at the same time, literally his Dreamcast died. It broke in some way, shape, or form immediately, like the day after. So like I never got to play it, but almost within the next like year and a half to 2 years, my brother convinced my parents to get a GameCube for the whole family, for all of us. And the GameCube was definitely my first official like big gaming system that we started like getting games like for like Christmas, birthdays, and around Easter and everything, for that type of stuff, just for gifts that we would actually get games. We would actually enjoy lots of those games. Not every single one of them. My mom used to get a bunch of like what kind of like the cheap games that she's like, oh, that looks cute type of thing. But some of the big games were that we got were like Metroid Prime and stuff. But my first like major game that I fell in love with that I played was this game right here, 007 Agent Under Fire. At this time, like, I didn't really know much about 007 or any of the games. Like, I knew that I heard from my brother that the N64 GoldenEye game was a pretty big game, and that it was huge, and it was one of the first-person shooters and everything, and lots of people loved it. And my brother heard great things about this game specifically, and even apparently when my brother went and got the GameCube, he got this game and the first Burnout game, which was a racing game, and those were the first two games that we had for like what was it, like two almost 3 months or so. But within that time, I had lots of fun playing 007. I have lots of memories playing this game, so it's very nostalgic for this game to begin with. And I could tell you this game should still be in pretty damn good shape. It looks like it might be a little dirty, but at the same time, nothing that a dry rag could fix up. So, but great game. First like major game that I actually played that really got me into video games. Now, the GameCube was my first introduction into main console gaming, but within the next few years or so, at the time, like the Game Boy Advance was really advancing, no pun intended, within just like the handheld industry, which was very interesting because that attracted my older brother, who was the one that really got all of us into video games to begin with, and he wanted the Game Boy Advance SP, which was due to release or come out pretty soon at the time, and he put that on his Christmas list and everything, and I'm like, oh, I want one too. So like I was really upset when I didn't get it, and he did, but at the same time, he let me try it out, and I used to kind of like borrow his Game Boy Advance SP and play it during recess inside and everything. Borrow. But he didn't actually let me do it. I just kind of like took it, but not necessarily the best thing, but I did anyways. But that was my first encounter with the Game Boy Advance SP. Eventually, I did get one of my own, and same with my younger brother, and we all had the Game Boy Advance SP. It was a great handheld system. I never got to play any like of the old like Pokemon games for those for like any of like the Game Boys or anything like that. Like I never got into playing like those old like Pokemon games or anything like that, like the originals. It wasn't until later when I started playing those games on like emulators on like my phone and stuff like that. But those were all lots of fun. The Game Boy Advance SP was the first handheld that I ever had, and then I eventually ended up getting a Nintendo DS, a DS Lite specifically, and around the same time was when the PSP came out, which was when my younger brother got that, so I was able to play a little bit of that. He let me play that sometimes, but I really loved my DS at the time. But that's really everything about me and my handheld experience. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which I guess is kind of like a big thing for some like gamers and stuff, because a lot of gamers really like playing games on like PC. Now, I never got into like big like PC games and stuff like that. Like I always played kind of like what PC gamers would call like the Nintendo players of the PC games. In other words, mainly games like Roller Coaster Tycoon, like SimCity, even some other like not really like super big computer games. I believe Mall Tycoon was a game that I played here and there, but I had fun playing those games. Those were like the big games that I had experience with on like PC. I never got into like any of like the big PC games with like a controller and everything, but like my older brother got into that a little bit with like emulators and stuff back in like mid 2000s and stuff like that. But other than that, like I never really played any of those games, and I had lots of fun playing all these games. And ever since my first main console, which was the GameCube that we actually had and everything, we ended up getting the Wii, and my younger brother ended up getting a Wii U, and then which led to me later on when the Switch came out. I actually ended up getting a Switch. I didn't get it right away, but I got it. What was it, about 6 months after it came out or so, and I love my Switch to death. So, and at the same time, just recently, I finally got myself a PS4, and I've been having lots of fun playing my PS4. So that's all of my gaming experience. I hope you guys enjoyed my brief history of sorts with my gaming and where I came from in terms of growing up and with games that I like to play. I hope you guys had fun with this video, because I did. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon. Join that Swamp Team. Follow me on one of my social media accounts, and I will see you guys in the next video.